Raphael had every reason to give up. A humble man with a past full of struggles and triumphs, he was now standing at the edge of his greatest challenge yet, earning the respect of his wealthy fiancée's family. It sounds like the plot of a movie, but this was a moving real story, packed with universal lessons about love, courage, and perseverance. Now, imagine yourself in Raphael's shoes. Would you risk everything for love, knowing every glance, every word, would judge your worth? Raphael did exactly that, but in a way no one could have expected. What would you do to discover someone's true intentions before they knew who you were? For Raphael, the answer was bold and risky. He disguised himself as a chauffeur to meet Isabella's family. It was a daring plan, but it put him in the direct line of judgment. As he drove them to an event, he overheard conversations that stung deeply, words laced with prejudice and cold detachment, revealing a vast divide between their world and his. It felt like stepping into the middle of one of the most moving stories in the world, but living it firsthand. Why would someone take such a risk? Because Raphael believed that love isn't just a feeling, it's an act of bravery. By hiding his true identity, he sought to prove that what truly matters is who we are inside, not the label society gives us. When Raphael finally revealed the truth, the fallout was explosive. Heated confrontations, emotional pleas, and an unexpected transformation followed, turning this inspiring story into a lesson about the power of love to challenge even the deepest prejudices. Are you ready to discover how this moving story unfolds and why it holds one of the most powerful lessons about resilience and truth? Keep reading to uncover a journey that proves love can conquer all, even the harshest judgments. Raphael was the kind of man who seemed to carry the weight of many stories on his shoulders, yet always maintained the posture of someone who wouldn't falter. At his core, he embodied the strength of simplicity. Humble yet resilient, he saw the world as an opportunity for transformation, even though life's scales often seemed tipped unfairly. That evening, he wore his best suit, simple but impeccably neat. It was enough to make a good impression at the charity event, a space brimming with luxury but concealing, beneath the gleam of crystal glasses, a world where appearances dictated the rules. As Raphael stepped into the hall, the contrast hit him. Soft lights reflected on grand golden mirrors, multiplying the sparkle of expensive jewelry and carefully practiced smiles. He noticed how gestures were meticulously rehearsed, laughter discreet, and words laden with hidden intentions. Although out of place, he knew he had a purpose there. Driven by the idea of supporting a noble cause and perhaps opening doors to new connections, Raphael moved among the guests like someone who understands the power of a real story. After all, every step he took was propelled by his own journey of overcoming challenges, a true life story that only he knew how to narrate. Looking around, Raphael could feel the palpable distance between this setting and the world he knew. It was a practical lesson in social inequality, a clash of realities. Still, he wasn't intimidated. There was something magnetic about him, a confidence that didn't rely on material possessions or status. Who says a humble man can't conquer the world? Raphael walked with firm steps, aware that his presence there wasn't by chance. It was as if every move he made told a moving story, something that, if narrated, would inspire anyone dreaming of crossing seemingly insurmountable barriers. In the corner of the hall, a group of people discussed the event's cause: education for underserved communities. Raphael observed with interest. Although surrounded by individuals whose life stories seemed shaped by privilege, he knew it was among those discussing changing the world that he might find his opportunity to make a difference. After all, he himself was living proof that education is a transformative tool. His past, full of hardships, was a motivational story he carried within him, a reminder that great changes often start with small steps. Even so, there was something unsettling about the atmosphere. It wasn't just the luxury, but the feeling that many there were more concerned with appearing generous than actually transforming lives. It was a parade of appearances, and Raphael knew that behind many smiling faces lay intentions far removed from altruism. He wondered how many truly understood the weight of a moving real story, one born from the harsh ground of reality, turning into inspiration for the world. Raphael decided to approach a table brimming with fine drinks, not to mingle, but to observe. Every small gesture, every conversation around him, seemed like a piece of a larger puzzle. He knew that to navigate this environment, he needed to be more than strategic. He needed to be authentic. After all, that's what his inspiring story had always taught him. Authenticity and courage open more doors than any facade ever could. As he poured himself a glass of wine, Raphael couldn't have imagined that very night, a meeting would change the course of his story. Fate, like an invisible narrator, was about to weave one of the most moving stories in the world, something that would begin in that hall but carry lessons and emotions far beyond that moment. Between opulence and simplicity, a connection was about to emerge that would transform everything. Raphael continued moving through the hall, now feeling slightly more at ease, as if he had already become part of that luxurious machinery without losing his essence. That's when something, or rather, someone, caught his attention. There she was, radiant, as though highlighted by an invisible light. Isabella. Her black dress flowed elegantly, while her gentle smile lit up the corner she occupied. Raphael couldn't have known, but this woman carried within her an inspiring story, one of those that cross our paths only once in a lifetime. When their eyes met, something indescribable happened. It was as if the rest of the hall disappeared, leaving just the two of them in a silent yet meaningful dialogue. Raphael wasn't easily intimidated, but he felt his heart race, and for good reason. Here was someone who, he sensed, also understood the depths of a moving story, despite being surrounded by such luxury. Gathering courage, he approached her. "Good evening," he said, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. Isabella turned, her eyes shining with a mix of surprise and intrigue. "Good evening," she replied, with a smile that seemed to open the door to a conversation that would change everything. It didn't take long for them to dive into a dialogue that strayed far from superficiality. Isabella wasn't like the others in the hall. Her passion for education and for helping underserved communities was evident in every word she spoke. She talked about her fight for inclusion and equality as someone who lived and felt the weight of a noble cause. Raphael was captivated. This wasn't just a conversation, it was the beginning of a love story built on shared values. Beneath her outer beauty, he discovered an altruistic soul, someone who could inspire even the most skeptical hearts. "Do you believe education can truly change the world?" Isabella asked, her eyes locked onto Raphael's, as though searching for an honest answer. He smiled, thinking about his own journey. "I'm living proof of it," he replied. Then, he shared a fragment of his real story, explaining how education had helped him turn challenges into opportunities. Isabella listened intently, as though absorbing every word. At that moment, both realized they were connected by something bigger than themselves, a shared belief in the power of transformative stories. As the conversation continued, Raphael felt that Isabella was unlike anyone he had ever met. She had a lightness that concealed the depth of her convictions. In that moment, he knew he was in the presence of someone extraordinary, a woman who not only understood life's complexities but was also willing to fight for a better future. Isabella, in turn, saw in Raphael more than what met the eye. There was an authenticity in him that was rare in places like that. He was, indeed, a character worthy of a moving story, someone who seemed to carry the essence of the world's most inspiring tales. Before they could continue, the crowd around them shifted, interrupting the moment. However, the seed of their connection had already been planted. Both knew the meeting wouldn't end there. Among exchanged glances and shared words, something greater had begun. It was the start of a journey combining the best of a family story, a motivational story, and, undoubtedly, a true love story. As the days passed, the connection between Raphael and Isabella grew stronger. However, the closer they became, the more Raphael realized that Isabella's world was surrounded by invisible yet insurmountable barriers. Isabella began to open up about her family, describing her parents as influential yet incredibly demanding figures. Raphael listened carefully, understanding that he was about to face a challenge much greater than he had anticipated. Their love was becoming a moving story, one filled with obstacles that would test the limits of courage and patience. Isabella's parents weren't just wealthy, they embodied power. Her father, a renowned businessman, had the sharp gaze of someone who viewed the world in black and white. You either belonged to their circle or you didn't. Her mother, always elegant, valued image and appearances above all, believing that their daughter's success depended on the connections she made. To them, Raphael wasn't just unsuitable, he was a threat to the bright future they envisioned for Isabella. Little did they know that Raphael was the protagonist of his own inspiring story, a narrative of resilience that no prejudice could erase. Isabella, on the other hand, felt torn. She loved Raphael but knew their relationship would not be easily accepted. Her mother, in a candid conversation, even asked, "Do you really think someone like him can give you what you deserve?" Those words echoed in Isabella's mind, but at the same time, they strengthened her resolve. She knew that true love couldn't be measured by wealth or status. This was the essence of a love story, one that defied societal norms and shone through its authenticity and depth. Raphael also felt the weight of this reality. He knew that his efforts to win over Isabella would have to go beyond words. Loving her wouldn't be enough. He would need to prove his worth to a family that saw his humble background as a problem. It was as if he were living inside one of those moving stories from books or movies, where the protagonist must overcome a series of challenges to achieve what he desires most. But unlike fiction, the real world offers no guarantees of a happy ending. Once, Isabella told Raphael that her father often tested those around him. "He doesn't trust anyone right away," she said. "He needs to be certain you're worth it." Raphael felt that her words were a warning. He would not only need to win Isabella's love, but also face a man who personified all the barriers he was fighting to overcome. Raphael understood that this life story he was living would not be written without effort, and he was willing to do whatever it took. Despite the difficulties, Isabella stood firm. She saw something in Raphael that her parents couldn't: character, integrity, and a heart full of love. She knew that to live her own moving real story, she would have to confront her family's prejudices. It was as if every decision she made was a battle between the past and the future, between what was expected of her and what she truly wanted. Raphael, in turn, began devising a plan. He knew that winning over Isabella's family wouldn't be a simple task, but he also knew that, to prove the power of love, one must sometimes dare greatly. Raphael began reflecting on how he could show his value without being judged by appearances or social standing. The idea was bold, almost unthinkable, but he knew he had to act. After all, every story with a moral lesson has a moment where the protagonist must make a courageous decision. And Raphael was about to do just that. It was the beginning of a plan that would test not only his love, but also his inner strength. Raphael knew he needed to do something extraordinary to prove his worth, not just to Isabella, but also to her parents. Reflecting on Isabella's words about her family's judgment and their rigid worldview, a bold idea began to take shape in his mind. What if he could meet her family without revealing his true identity? It seemed risky, but it made perfect sense. Disguising himself as a chauffeur would be the best way to observe her parents in a more genuine setting, free from the formalities that come with introductions. This marked the beginning of a moving story, a journey that required immense courage and resolve. The idea felt almost absurd. Standing in front of a mirror, adjusting a simple driver's cap and wearing a neat uniform, Raphael barely recognized himself. Yet, he understood that the disguise was crucial for his plan to succeed. If I'm going to be judged, I want it to be for my character, not my appearance or status, he thought. This is a lesson many real stories teach us. First impressions can be deceiving, and a person's true essence only reveals itself in unguarded moments. Raphael was about to put this theory to the test in a situation that demanded composure and bravery. On the day of the event, Raphael arrived at Isabella's family mansion in a rented luxury car. The contrast between his humble demeanor and the opulent environment couldn't have been starker. Waiting at the entrance, he observed the household's routine, staff following orders without question, and her parents moving through the space with an air of authority that reflected their position in the world. For Raphael, it was his first glimpse into the challenge he faced. He realized he was dealing with people who saw the world through a lens entirely different from his own. It felt as though he were living in a moving real story, one where patience and character were tested to their limits. Isabella, aware of the plan, was both supportive and nervous. She trusted Raphael's intentions but worried about how her family might react. "Are you sure about this?" she asked minutes before he stepped into the car. "I am," Raphael replied with the determination of someone about to take the most significant step of his life. Isabella said no more, but her gaze carried a mix of admiration and concern. It was a moment worthy of a love story, where love itself was put to the test in the face of high-stakes decisions. As Raphael drove through the city toward the event, he couldn't help but reflect on what lay ahead. He knew that disguising himself as a chauffeur put him in a vulnerable position, but he also knew it was the only way to understand how Isabella's parents truly treated people. If they can respect a chauffeur, perhaps there's hope, he thought. Many stories with moral lessons remind us that to truly know someone, observe how they treat those who can offer them nothing in return. Arriving at the event venue, Raphael stepped out of the car and opened the doors for Isabella's family. They barely acknowledged him, treating him as just another employee. This was precisely what Raphael had anticipated. Maintaining his professional demeanor, he quietly observed their interactions and overheard their conversations. Every gesture, every word, was a clue in the puzzle he was piecing together. In that moment, Raphael realized his plan wasn't just a strategy. It was a personal journey of discovery and resilience. He was living a motivational story, one that would inspire him for the rest of his life. By the end of the evening, Raphael knew this was only the beginning of his mission. The plan was daring, but its results were beginning to emerge. He understood there was much more to uncover, and every revelation brought him closer to his ultimate goal, winning the trust of Isabella's family and proving that love transcends all boundaries. What Raphael didn't yet know was that the discoveries ahead would be as profound as they were painful. That evening, as Raphael drove the family to their destination, the city lights danced on the car windows, mirroring his swirling emotions. At first, he believed that the greatest challenge would be proving his worth. But the conversations he overheard in that car revealed a much deeper, more unsettling truth. Isabella's parents, unaware that the chauffeur was actually the man their daughter loved, spoke openly about their views of the world. Their words, cold and laden with superiority, pierced Raphael's heart. He realized he was witnessing, firsthand, the vast chasm between their lives. It was as if he had stepped into a moving story, one where each revelation tested his resolve. The comments began subtly, almost as though testing the waters. "It's remarkable how some people simply don't know their place," Isabella's father remarked with a hint of disdain. Raphael gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles turning white. Each word echoed like a harsh reminder that, to this family, status mattered more than character. Yet, despite the sting of these remarks, Raphael reminded himself that this experience was necessary. Every real story of resilience needs moments like these, moments that shape character and fortify conviction. In the back seat, Isabella appeared visibly uneasy. Raphael caught her reflection in the rearview mirror, her fingers fidgeting nervously on her lap as she avoided her parents' gaze. It was clear she didn't share their sentiments, but she was torn between loyalty to her family and her love for Raphael. The internal conflict she faced was palpable, a struggle emblematic of so many family stories where personal values clash with inherited beliefs. Watching her struggle silently, Raphael felt a wave of empathy, realizing that she too was carrying the weight of their relationship. The hardest moment came when Isabella's father, with no regard for the chauffeur's presence, began discussing the limits of love. He spoke of how successful marriages required strategic alliances to preserve the family's wealth and reputation. Emotions are important, he said, but they should never overshadow practicality. Raphael felt a mixture of anger and sadness. These words were a clear rejection of everything he stood for. But instead of breaking him, they only strengthened his resolve. After all, every moving story needs a hero willing to face the toughest truths head-on. Amid the tension, Isabella finally spoke up, her voice soft but resolute. "Sometimes, I think we underestimate the power of love," she said, her words hanging in the air like a challenge to her parents' beliefs. Her father fell silent, and for the first time, there was a flicker of uncertainty in his expression. Raphael felt a surge of gratitude toward Isabella. In her own quiet way, she was standing by him. It was a reminder that even in the most difficult moving real stories, moments of light can break through the darkness. When they arrived at the restaurant, Raphael stepped out to open the doors. Isabella's parents exited without a word, their demeanor unchanged. But when Isabella stepped out, she paused for a brief moment, her gaze meeting Raphael's. Her eyes carried an unspoken apology, a silent acknowledgment of everything he had endured that night. Raphael returned her look with a slight nod, an unspoken assurance that he understood, and that he wasn't giving up. As he waited in the car, Raphael replayed the evening's events in his mind. He knew the path ahead would not be easy. The family's comments and attitudes had revealed the enormity of the challenge before him. Yet, he also knew that these painful moments were molding him, making him stronger. Every cutting remark, every dismissive glance, was fuel for his determination. He was living a motivational story, one where the journey of love and perseverance transformed not just hearts, but also perceptions. Raphael realized that these discoveries, though painful, were vital. They allowed him to see the true nature of the family he hoped to become a part of. And though the night had tested his spirit, it also fortified his belief in the love he shared with Isabella. He knew that his next step would require even greater courage. But Raphael was ready. He wasn't just living a story. He was writing his own story with a moral lesson that would inspire others to fight for what they believed in. Raphael knew he couldn't keep his true identity hidden for much longer. His disguise as a chauffeur had given him invaluable insight into the challenges he faced, but it was time to confront the truth. Deep down, he understood that the only way forward was through honesty. During a gathering in the elegant sitting room of Isabella's family mansion, Raphael decided it was time to reveal who he truly was. It was a pivotal moment, one that felt pulled straight from a moving story, where the protagonist lays everything on the line for love. As he stepped into the room, his heart raced, but his steps remained steady. Isabella's parents sat on their luxurious sofas, and she stood by the fireplace, visibly anxious. Raphael, still dressed in the uniform of a chauffeur, took a deep breath and spoke. "I have something important to say," he began, his voice calm but heavy with emotion. "I am not just a driver. My name is Raphael, and I am the man who loves your daughter." The silence that followed was deafening, as though the air had been sucked out of the room. Raphael knew he had just exposed his entire real story, and he braced himself for what would come next. Isabella's father was the first to break the silence. "How dare you come into my home and lie about who you are?" he demanded, his voice sharp with anger and disbelief. Raphael stood his ground, meeting the older man's piercing gaze. "I didn't lie," Raphael replied evenly. "I simply wanted to meet you without the weight of expectations or judgment based on my appearance. I wanted you to see who I truly am." His words carried a courage that was impossible to ignore, though Raphael knew convincing this man would be an uphill battle. But in every inspiring story, there is a moment where the truth must be spoken, no matter the cost. Isabella, sensing the tension rising, stepped forward. "Father, please listen to him," she pleaded, her voice filled with emotion. "Raphael did this because he wanted to protect what we have. He knew you might not accept him immediately, but all that matters is who he is as a person." Her words hung in the air, creating a pause in the confrontation. It was a defining moment in their love story, where Isabella proved that she was willing to stand by Raphael, no matter the opposition. Isabella's mother, who had been silent until now, finally spoke, her tone laced with skepticism. "Do you really believe you can be part of this family? Pretending to be someone you're not and expecting us to accept you?" Her eyes reflected a mix of anger and confusion. Raphael, refusing to falter, responded with honesty. "I know it sounds wrong, but I did it because I believe love transcends barriers. And I am willing to do whatever it takes to prove my worth." It was a tense moment, but Raphael's sincerity was undeniable. He was living out a moving real story, where love and courage go hand in hand. The confrontation reached its peak when Isabella, with tears in her eyes, stood between Raphael and her parents. "I love Raphael," she declared, her voice firm despite the emotion behind it. "And nothing will change that. You may not understand now, but he is the man I've chosen to spend my life with." Her words were powerful, creating a ripple of realization in the room. Raphael felt a surge of gratitude for her unwavering support. Together, they were creating a true story of love and resilience. After a long silence, Isabella's father finally spoke, his tone less fiery but still guarded. "You are brave, Raphael. I'll give you that," he admitted. "But bravery alone won't be enough. Prove to me that you're worthy of my daughter, and perhaps I'll reconsider." It was a challenge, but also an opening. Raphael recognized the opportunity and knew it was time to step up. Every story with a moral lesson requires sacrifices and perseverance, and Raphael was prepared for what lay ahead. As the tension in the room began to ease, Raphael felt that, despite the resistance, an important step had been taken. The truth was out, and while the road ahead wouldn't be easy, it was a start. He understood that the next phase would involve demonstrating his worth not just to Isabella's family, but to himself as well. What Raphael didn't yet realize was that this moment would lead to a transformation none of them expected. The tension in the air after Raphael's revelation lingered, but something had shifted. Isabella's father, although still resistant, appeared to be contemplating Raphael's words. He was a proud man, accustomed to controlling the world around him, but he couldn't ignore the courage it took for Raphael to confront him so directly. Perhaps it was Raphael's honesty, or maybe it was Isabella's unwavering determination to defend the man she loved. Whatever the reason, the seeds of change had been planted. Like any transformation in a moving story, the process would be gradual, filled with reflection and inner conflict. In the days that followed, Isabella's father began to observe Raphael more closely. He started noticing details that he had previously dismissed: the way Raphael carried himself, the way he spoke with conviction and treated everyone with respect. During a quiet moment with his wife, he said, "Maybe we were too quick to judge him." It was a rare admission from a man who rarely second-guessed himself. This small shift in perspective marked the beginning of what could become a profound change, the kind that fuels the best real stories of growth and understanding. One evening, Isabella's father took an unexpected step. He invited Raphael to meet him privately, away from the family and any distractions. Raphael, though nervous, accepted the invitation, knowing it was an opportunity to prove himself. Over coffee in the study, Isabella's father asked pointed questions about Raphael's life, his struggles, his goals, and what drove him. Raphael spoke candidly, sharing pieces of his life story that he seldom revealed. "I grew up with little," he said, "but I've always believed that hard work and education could change a person's destiny." His sincerity left an impression on Isabella's father, who saw in Raphael a man with the kind of resilience and ambition he valued. It was a pivotal moment in their moving story, where mutual understanding began to take root. For the first time, Isabella's father found himself reflecting on his own past. He had fought his way to success, overcoming obstacles that few knew about. In Raphael, he recognized a younger version of himself, someone willing to face adversity with determination. This realization didn't erase his reservations, but it softened his perspective. He began to see Raphael not as a threat, but as a man of principle. Like any great inspiring story, this transformation was built on shared values and a willingness to see beyond the surface. The shift wasn't without its challenges. Old habits die hard, and Isabella's father still wrestled with his preconceived notions. He voiced these struggles to his wife one evening, saying, "It's difficult to let go of the idea that we know what's best for Isabella. But maybe, just maybe, we need to trust her judgment." His wife, who had also begun to warm to Raphael, agreed. "What matters most is that she's happy," she replied. Together, they took another step toward reconciling their expectations with the reality of their daughter's choices, a key theme in any meaningful family story. The turning point came during a charity event organized by Isabella's family. Raphael volunteered to help and ended up speaking to the audience about his own journey. His words were raw and heartfelt, recounting the struggles of his youth and the transformative power of education. The audience was captivated, but none more so than Isabella's father. Listening to Raphael, he saw a man who wasn't there to impress anyone but genuinely wanted to make a difference. It was a moment that embodied the spirit of a motivational story, showing the power of authenticity to change hearts. Later that evening, Isabella's father approached Raphael, his demeanor noticeably softer. "Raphael," he began, "I still have my reservations. But I can see that you're a man of integrity, and I respect that." It was a breakthrough, a moment that signaled the possibility of acceptance. Raphael responded with gratitude, recognizing that this small gesture was a significant step forward. In that moment, their moving real story reached a new chapter, one of understanding and the beginnings of mutual respect. From then on, the relationship between Raphael and Isabella's father began to improve. It wasn't perfect, but the barriers between them were slowly dissolving. Isabella's father saw in Raphael not just a man who loved his daughter, but someone who could enrich their family in unexpected ways. It was a transformation that reminded everyone involved that love and resilience have the power to bridge even the deepest divides. This true story of growth and acceptance was still unfolding, but it was clear that the journey was heading toward a place of reconciliation. After enduring so many trials, Raphael and Isabella's relationship emerged stronger than ever. They had faced obstacles that would have shaken many couples, but each challenge only reinforced their bond. It was as though their individual struggles, rich with lessons and victories, had woven themselves into a single powerful narrative. Together, they were living a moving story, a tale of love and perseverance that proved the strength of their connection. Yet, they knew the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. Raphael, determined and deeply in love, made a solemn promise to Isabella. Looking into her eyes with unwavering conviction, he said, "I will prove every day that I'm worthy of your love." No matter how difficult things get, I'll be here for you. Isabella, with equal passion, took his hand and replied, "And I'll stand by your side, facing whatever comes our way." It wasn't just words, it was a silent vow between two souls who understood the magnitude of their journey. It was a moment that embodied the essence of a love story, where the commitment to each other transcended every doubt and fear. Although her family had softened their stance, tensions lingered. Raphael was acutely aware that he still had to demonstrate his worth in their eyes. He began to involve himself more deeply in the family's charitable projects, not out of obligation, but because he genuinely believed in the causes they supported. During a family meeting about a new educational initiative, Raphael volunteered to contribute his ideas and experience. "I know what it's like to grow up without opportunities," he said. "If I can help change that for others, it would be an honor." This gesture not only showcased Raphael's values, but also solidified his role within the family's dynamic. It was the kind of moment found in the most heartfelt motivational stories, where actions speak louder than words. Isabella, too, faced her share of struggles. Friends and extended family often questioned her decision to stay with Raphael, hinting that she was compromising her future. "Are you sure he's the right person for you?" they would ask. But Isabella's resolve never wavered. "What we have goes beyond appearances," she would reply. To her, Raphael wasn't just her partner. He was her source of inspiration, a constant reminder of the power of love and perseverance. Her determination was a testament to the authenticity of their true story, one that didn't rely on validation from others but thrived on the strength of their connection. Together, Raphael and Isabella began to dream of a future that went beyond their relationship. They wanted to make a difference, not just for themselves but for others. Raphael shared his vision of starting a foundation to support education in underserved communities, inspired by the very cause that had brought them together. Isabella, with her experience in social projects, eagerly joined in. "We can do this together," she said, her excitement evident. It was the beginning of something bigger than themselves, a moving real story that had the potential to impact countless lives. Small gestures between them revealed the depth of their shared commitment. One evening, Raphael surprised Isabella with a notebook filled with ideas for their foundation. "I've been brainstorming ways we can make this work," he said, handing her the notebook. She flipped through the pages, her smile growing with every detail she read. "You've already started this without me," she teased. "Never without you," he replied. It was in these everyday moments that they realized how aligned they were, how each day together strengthened the story they were building. Despite the progress they had made, Raphael and Isabella knew the journey wasn't over. They were aware that love wasn't just a feeling, it was a choice, a daily commitment to support, uplift, and grow together. They were creating a family story that would serve as an example for others, showing that with determination and courage, even the toughest barriers could be overcome. But they also understood that the challenges weren't entirely behind them, and the true test of their union was still to come. After months of enduring immense challenges, Raphael and Isabella began to notice a shift, not just within themselves, but also in the attitudes of those around them. Despite the hurdles, they were slowly winning respect and understanding. The initial resistance from Isabella's parents gave way to moments of reflection and, eventually, small acts of acceptance. It was clear that their perseverance had sparked a transformation. This was the hallmark of a moving story, where love and determination gradually overcome even the most stubborn obstacles. Isabella's father, in particular, began to see Raphael in a new light. The man he had once dismissed as unsuitable now appeared to be someone of substance and integrity. One evening at a family dinner, he surprised everyone by acknowledging Raphael. "I didn't understand at first what my daughter saw in you," he admitted. "Now I'm beginning to see it." These words, though simple, carried significant weight. They marked the beginning of reconciliation, a theme central to any meaningful real story of growth and redemption. However, the process was far from linear. Old prejudices occasionally resurfaced, leading to tense moments during family discussions. Yet, Raphael and Isabella faced these challenges together, their unity a testament to the strength of their bond. During one particularly heated conversation, Isabella stood firm, addressing her parents with calm determination. "Raphael and I are committed to building a life together," she said. "We're not asking for you to change overnight, but we do ask for your respect." Her words struck a chord, underscoring the depth of her love and resolve. It was a pivotal moment in their family story, where mutual understanding began to take root. Raphael, too, played a crucial role in mending relationships. He continued to involve himself in the family's charitable projects, not to impress, but because he genuinely cared. At one event, Raphael delivered a heartfelt speech about his own journey, describing how education had shaped his life and given him a chance to succeed. His words resonated with everyone in the room, but especially with Isabella's parents. For the first time, they saw Raphael not just as their daughter's partner, but as a man who could inspire others. It was a moment straight out of a motivational story, demonstrating the power of authenticity and humility to bridge divides. In private, Isabella's father began to reflect on his own growth. One evening, he admitted to Raphael, "I've spent so long clinging to what I thought was best for my family. But you've shown me that sometimes, what's best comes in unexpected forms." These words were more than an admission, they were a turning point. They signaled that Raphael had not only earned his respect, but had also changed his perspective. It was the culmination of a moving real story, where love and persistence transformed even the most resistant hearts. For Isabella, the reconciliation with her parents was equally profound. She saw a gradual shift in their attitudes, not just toward Raphael, but also toward her own strength and independence. Her parents began to respect her choices, recognizing that she had grown into a woman capable of making decisions for herself. To Isabella, this wasn't just a personal victory. It was a reminder that love could inspire change far beyond the individuals involved. It was a true story of love, resilience, and growth, one that would leave a lasting impact on their family. In the end, Raphael and Isabella didn't just overcome their challenges, they transformed them into opportunities for growth and understanding. Their story wasn't merely about romance, it was about bridging gaps, challenging assumptions, and creating a new foundation for the future. While the journey wasn't without its struggles, it proved that with determination, even the deepest divides could be bridged. This inspiring story of love and reconciliation was far from over, but it had already set the stage for a brighter and more united future. After reading Raphael and Isabella's incredible journey, it's impossible not to feel a spark of inspiration. But here's the real question. How often do you let fear of judgment or obstacles stop you from pursuing what truly matters? Raphael's moving story isn't just about love, it's about resilience, courage, and breaking through the limits others try to impose. His actions challenge us to reflect on our own lives. Are you holding back on your dreams because of someone else's expectations? What if you could turn your struggles into your own motivational story? So, what's next for you? Are you ready to take the first step toward creating your own real story of transformation? Whether it's standing up for what you believe in, fighting for love, or breaking through the barriers in your way, it's time to act. Maybe your journey won't involve disguises or dramatic confrontations, but every decision you make today will shape the life story you live tomorrow. Start small, reach out to someone, take a bold step in your career, or simply say yes to a challenge you've been avoiding. The power of change is in your hands. And if you found value in Raphael and Isabella's journey, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications to discover more stories that move hearts and inspire action. Every true story we share is crafted to show you that no matter where you start, your journey can lead to extraordinary places. So, what's the next chapter in your story? Let's write it together.